There's a lot of shiny objects. There's a lot of things that we could do, but you got to ask yourself, is that going to help the business long-term or short-term? Is it bringing more traffic back to the business? Is it bringing revenue back to the business, right? So ask yourself those questions whenever you're thinking about doing this. Well, hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Rock Your Brand podcast. I'm your host, Scott Boker, a serial entrepreneur on a mission to help you. This show is designed to teach you, to inspire you, to motivate you to take massive action and build a future-proof business. So, whether you're just starting out or taking your existing business to the next level, this is your home. Now, if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's rock your brand. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Rock Your Brand podcast. This is episode 881. And today we're going to be talking about something that I recently shared on a coffee talk, and that is the brand wheel of awesomeness. Yes, I know, pretty cool name, right? But seriously, what I am going to be covering here is exactly what we covered at Brand Accelerator Live, the full virtual day workshop that we just wrapped up. So if you're listening to this, you may have already attended it, but you are going to just hear right now the core concepts of what really makes up the brand wheel of awesomeness, really what creates a successful brand. Now, if you did miss out on Brand Accelerator Live, the virtual event, you can still go to baltickets.com, and there should be an option there for you to grab the recordings or at least get on a wait list for when they are ready. All right, because that was our live one-day workshop day that we did in place of our live in-person event. But this event here was really based off of what I'm sharing in today's episode. And even if you did not attend, or if you're not planning on attending, you are going to want to understand what this core principle is, or the principles are inside of this wheel. And if you are listening to this, then you're not going to get the visual of it, but I did share that on a coffee talk, and I also will take that video and embed it in the show notes. So once again, this is episode 881. So you can find the show notes by heading over to brandcreators.com/881. And you can see that, that little graphic that I created. But it really does come down to these four things inside of this wheel, and they just feed each other. It's also going to be refreshing in a sense that if you've been going down the road of you think you have to jump on the latest hack or the latest strategy or the latest, new platform, you're going to see that I do not believe that that's what we have to do. And what we need to do is go back to basics and focus on those basics and then feed the wheel. All right. And if we do this and we just focus on these areas, it's going to just start to create a flywheel effect. All right. So I'm going to stop talking now so you can listen to this full session that I shared with my coffee talk people. And if you're interested in joining us on a coffee talk Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, you can just head over to takeactioncrew.com, and that'll take you to the page, and you can be notified when we go live on those days. And one of those sessions was what I'm covering here in today's episode that's airing here on the podcast. All right. So guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy the brand wheel of awesomeness. All right, guys. So like I said, today I want to talk about this thing I'm calling the brand wheel of awesomeness. And the way I look at it is there's a whole bunch of different things that we can be focusing on. We want to focus on the main things, and also things that are not going to ultimately change. Okay. And what I mean by that is when we're jumping on a trend, right? I'm going to use TikTok, right? You might be hearing, oh my gosh, you got to get in on TikTok. TikTok's got a lot of traffic there, and people are starting to really get a lot of attention. They're getting a lot of traffic. But is that a trend? Or do you think that TikTok is going to be here in 5 or 10 years? It may be, but what's been proven that's been around is good old Google, right? And would you agree that in 5 years from now that Google will probably still be here, and that you'll probably still be using Google? And what are we doing on Google? We're searching for information. right? So everything that we've been talking about here, whether it's on the podcast, whether it's on a coffee talk, you've probably been hearing me talk, a lot about creating evergreen assets, right? Assets that allow us to plant a seed and have it live on for a very long time. If you put up a TikTok video, it might take off, but is that going to be really found a year from now? 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Probably not, right? Even if the platform still exists, your piece of content's probably not going to be there, right? It's there, but no one's looking for it, right? It's got to go viral, right? It's got to be one of those things. And we've all seen viral videos, and they're there, and they might have a little bit of a run, and then they die out. Okay. And that's a good little surge, but we better be doing the other things on the back end that allow our business to grow and thrive and stay steady and consistent, right? So that's kind of what I'm talking about here, is like not jumping on the trend. Also looking at what are the things in your business that you're putting your time and energy in. Are those things that are short-term growth or long-term growth, right? And so another example is Instagram, right? If you have an Instagram account, you are trying to get followers, right? And if you're getting followers, are those people actually going to come over and consume your information? So now let's say that we are going down the route of, I'm going to build an Instagram account and try to get 20,000 people to follow me. And then out of those 20,000, if you look at the numbers, they're like less than 1% that will actually see your stuff, right? So you're going to put all this time and energy into this thing that you got to keep feeding, right? You got to keep feeding the Instagram, right? You got to keep feeding it. So I'm always looking at, does that make the most sense? Or does creating content that resides on Google and Yahoo and Bing, does that make sense? What one would be a better use of my time, right? So that's what I'm looking at there. Then the next thing would be like, okay, let's say, for example, you say, you know what? I want to go ahead and I want to go and start using LinkedIn, right? Okay. LinkedIn, probably better than an Instagram in my opinion, but still, we're still trying to get attention over here that we got to feed this thing that can hopefully be evergreen and come back, right? So I'm always looking at those things, right? So that's like getting the attention piece. That's like the traffic piece, right? So to me, there's like two things. There's two things. One, well, actually, you know what? Let me do this. If you guys are listening to the podcast, I want you to think to yourself, what are those two things? And I'm going to give this a second here. I want to know inside of the comments here, does anyone know what those two main things are that we should be focusing on in our business? Two main things. I want you guys to let me know. And if you guys are listening to this, I want you to think to yourself and come up with those two things, and we'll see if you're right. And then I'm going to dive into those two things, and then we'll explore how to really focus on these main things in our business and in our brand. So while you're doing that, again, let me just kind of cement this point in, right? There's a lot of shiny objects. There's a lot of things that we could do, but you got to ask yourself, is that going to help the business long-term or short-term? Okay. Is it bringing more traffic back to the business? Is bringing revenue back to the business, right? So ask yourself those questions whenever you're thinking about doing this, right? So Octavio says a goodwill and providing value. Okay. That's really good. I like that we're adding goodwill, and what Octavio is saying, like we're adding value to the marketplace. So anytime we add value, I'm here right now, either you're listening to this on a podcast or you're listening to this on a coffee talk, watching a replay, or you're here live, it doesn't matter, right? This is a piece of goodwill content. This is where I'm showing up and I'm helping you in some way, shape, or form. Hopefully you're going to walk away and be like, man, I'm so glad that I listened to that today, because Scott really opened my eyes to this concept about like not getting overwhelmed with all of the shiny objects, but also what should I be focusing on? And I'm giving you a different lens to look through, right? This is goodwill, right? And providing value is still part of the goodwill piece. So it's right in a sense that that's what we want to do, Octavio, but it's not the right answer. All right. So now Anthony, on the other hand, is really close. Super close. Traffic and profits. So Anthony is the closest. So what I am looking at, the two things I'm looking at is traffic. How are we getting traffic to our brand? How are we getting the traffic to our brand? So if we think about it, right, let's just take all of the different things that you can do to get traffic, right? You can do blogging, right? Blog content. You can do YouTube videos. You can do Twitter. You can do Instagram, right? You can do Pinterest. You can do Facebook, right? You can do LinkedIn, right? You can do Messenger on Facebook, right? So it's a different way of getting the traffic and the attention, right? You can do that, right? So you can, like I said, I think I already said it, TikTok, right? You can do TikTok. You can do Snapchat, right? You could does anybody remember, oh gosh, what was the name of the, I was using it there for a little bit. Oh, Periscope. That was a hot one, right? Remember that? And then Facebook came out with Facebook Lives and then crushed them, right? So what about Periscope? Build up that, right? These are all traffic are ways to get traffic, options, right? These are different things that we can spend our time on, right? So the other thing is I didn't even mention paid ads, right? You got Google, you got Facebook ads, you got YouTube ads, you got all this stuff. We got all these different things, and you probably got different people you're listening to, and they're like, you got to do TikTok, you got to do Instagram, you got to go over here and start your Twitter, you got to start doing more Twitter, or you need to do Snapchat, whatever, right? You need to do Periscope. Okay, so you're hearing all these things. You're like, oh wow, I should do that, and oh wow, I should do that, and oh, I should do that. We don't want to do that all. What we want to do is what I always look at is what is something that I can do that will live on. Okay. So an example, you're watching this or listening to this right here. I am doing this live for anyone that is here live, but I am also going to take this and I'm going to make it evergreen, because if it was just here on Facebook, okay, it's going to live on for a little bit, and then it's going to kind of get buried, right? But if I take this and put it on a podcast, people are going to search on iTunes or, any of the other platforms for podcasting, Stitcher, any of those, Google Play, and they're going to find the podcast and they're going to find this episode maybe. It's also going to reside on my website where it can be found on Google, right? So all that stuff. But I'm not going on Instagram and spending 3 hours a day to basically build up my following so I can get, an extra 100 people to see my stuff. It's just not worth my time, right? So I'd rather spend the time here, because also what's happening in the background here is anyone that watches this video is becoming part of a custom audience in the background that if I want to run Facebook ads to you, I can, because you've basically let me know that you're interested in this because you're here and you're watching this, right? Now, if you're listening to this on the podcast, that doesn't apply to you. But if you're creating any type of Facebook content that's a video form like this, you can basically go, I want to show ads to anyone that watched 25% or more of this video, right? So again, that's an evergreen piece to me because I can run paid ads to it. I can still use it, or I can take this, put it up on the podcast. I can put it up on the blog, right? But I'm not going to put it up on Instagram and think that it's going to live on Instagram. It's going to be there, but it's going to get buried, right? I'm not going to go and do a TikTok about this episode and start dancing and talking about it because there's an audience there, right? Not going to do that. And if you guys are listening to this, you didn't just see me try to dance. That was terrible. But that's what I want you guys to be thinking about, right? And I'm going to go through the brand wheel of awesomeness here in a minute, but what I'm saying right here goes along with this, all right? The second thing is, yes, profits is it, but I'm really talking about offers, right? The more offers, that we can put out into the marketplace in our brand, okay? And these can be our own offers. They could be our own physical product. They could be our own digital product, right? They could be an affiliate offer. And it can just be offers from ad networks displaying on our website, right? So the more offers we add to the marketplace in our name, in our brand, the more chances we have of making money, right? And bringing in revenue. So you see how that is? There's two things, right? So I'm looking at those two things at all times. How do I get the eyeballs without having to feed an algorithm every single day, right? Like Instagram. I'm picking on Instagram because that's one that kind of annoys me, because I see a lot of people falling in the trap that they think they're going to build up this big following, and then they're going to be able to just put an Instagram message out there, and they're going to have thousands of people come over to their stuff. I look at that like, if you're on Instagram and you enjoy it, then sure, go there and then amplify your content. But I wouldn't spend me personally, I'm not spending my time there, right? To me, it's just not worth my time. It's my time spent other places, right? So the traffic piece is huge, okay? The offers, which leads to profits. So in a sense, Anthony, yes, you were correct, okay? Traffic and profits. And the profits is really, the way that you get more profits is by having more offers, right? So if you guys are listening to this or watching this before September 12th, we are actually going to be teaching this process in a full day event, workshop, Brand Accelerator, live, virtual 2020. Since we've had to postpone that event as far as an in-person event, we've now made it a one-day event. And we're going to be doing a full day workshop focusing on these two areas. Okay. So you see what I just did there? Two areas. That's all I'm focusing on. I'm not focusing on the next trendy thing or the TikTok strategy or this hack or that hack. We're going to be talking about the traffic areas to focus on, the landscape, new and old, right? And then from there, we are going to be breaking down, how do we get our brand out there? How do we create these assets? And we've talked a lot about this on the podcast and on our coffee talks, okay? But we're actually going to be breaking this down. Then we're going to go into email list building and email marketing, which is another thing that brings in traffic, which is also a huge focus of ours, right? So that's one I am going to focus on, right? And so again, that's another piece. So we're going to talk about that. And then I actually have a guest coming on that's going to break down how she is using email. She's building an email list and then selling a small $10 digital product. And she is generating anywhere between $12,000 and $15,000 a month, driving paid ads to this little $10 offer, right? And so then I'm going to follow that up, and I'm going to teach something I've never taught before, which is going to be a full session dedicated to building your first digital product and selling it within 30 days, right? And then Chris Schaefer is going to come on and follow it up with a whole session on Facebook ads and really what's working now and how to master them in 7 days or less, right? So everything I just described there, it's exactly what we're talking about here, right? Two things: traffic and yes, profits, but really offers. How do we create more offers? And let me just go back to the digital thing for a minute. I actually was on a coaching call yesterday with two of my Brand Creators Academy students, Doug and Ruth. And we had to go over a few things because they have a physical product. They are working on a digital product. They have a lead magnet, and they're kind of like, okay, well, like what's next? Like, I don't want to launch another physical product as of yet. It takes a lot longer and it requires a lot of capital up front. So I'm like, what we need to do is focus on what is your digital product suite. So so many brands aren't focusing on that. They're not giving it enough attention, and they should be. Because do you realize if you've ever tried to sell a physical product or currently sell physical products? I currently have a brand that sells physical products. We're just about ready to close on that deal, by the way, as far as selling it. There's a lot that goes into launching new SKUs. We all know it, right? Logistically, crazy, right? With digital, I can roll out a digital offer within days if I want to, and I can test it in the marketplace, and I got no inventory. So if I can build out my digital suite of offers, I have a better chance of bringing in profits, right? So that's another thing that's going to be a pretty big focus here moving into, the last part of 2020 and 2021, because that's what I'm doing, right? It's something that's underutilized and a lot of people aren't taking advantage of it. And the thing is, the reason why is because they're focusing on, how do I get you know, 10,000 Instagram followers? Or how do I get 10,000 views on my TikTok, right? Or, how do I do the things like that aren't really going to bring in as much as if you were to focus on the traffic assets that actually are evergreen, and then the offers that are evergreen. And then you have a mix of that, right? And then we can do some fun stuff with email marketing. And then we can do some fun stuff with a Facebook ad and create a little mini launch funnel and a deadline sequence. We can do all of these other cool things. Those are what I'd be focused on. I wouldn't be focusing on how to build up my Periscope following, which that's kind of dead, but you get what I'm saying, right? So that's what I'm looking at. All right. So let me go ahead. Oh, actually, I should do this too real quick. If you guys are interested in attending, if you're listening to this before September 12th or even afterwards, I'm pretty sure that the recordings will be available. If you go to baltickets.com, again, that's baltickets.com, and you can go there right now. If you're listening to this before the 12th, for a short while, there's early bird pricing. And then after that, they're still going to be very affordable. But we have two options. We have a live pass where if you just want to show up live, it's 10 a.m. Eastern time to 6 p.m. We also have an after party cocktail hour that we're going to be doing with some Q&A and some special guests and things like that. It's a full day workshop, guys. And the idea here is to really focus on these two areas and not get distracted and really teach what you need to do and get rid of all the fluff. All right. We don't need to go through a 4-week modulated course. We're just going to learn this thing in one day. And then you're going to take one of those pieces and start working on that piece. And then the next one, when you're ready, will be there, right? But we're going to condense this down so they're actionable workshops. That's actually what we're doing there. So baltickets.com. Again, there's a VIP ticket option also that will give you the recordings so you can attend live or some of the sessions live. And then you can also grab the recordings. And then also we're giving away as a bonus the recordings from Brand Accelerator Live 2019, which was a 2.5-day live event, which was amazing. So if you guys are interested in that, baltickets.com. I should probably put that up on the screen. And if you're listening to this, you don't see that, but it's baltickets.com. All right. So let me pull up my screen real quick. And if you guys are listening to this on the podcast, I'm going to go ahead and describe it. So don't worry about this, but this is what I call the brand wheel of awesomeness. All right. And here's what it looks like. All right. Traffic. Okay. So we have, if you guys are listening to this, I have basically a rectangular page at the very top in yellow, a little yellow block. It says traffic. All right. So we're starting with traffic. Okay. Now, again, I'm assuming that you already have your website built, right? You already have a home base. Okay. And if you have all that in place already, which isn't hard, but if you have that in place, then it's like, okay, now what do we focus on, right? Again, because a lot of people will focus on all of the shiny objects. So here is the breakdown. So we're looking at, on the very top, we see traffic, right? In a yellow box. And then down below that, I'm looking at 3 sources of traffic. I'm looking at Google, I'm looking at Pinterest, I'm looking at Facebook. Okay. So there's 3 channels that I'm going to focus on. Now, will I still get traffic on Bing if I post content on my website? Yes. Will I still get some from Yahoo? Yes. Right. I'll get some from those other search engines, any search engine. But the primary one that I'm targeting is Google. Good old Google. We all know Google's going to be here in 5 years from now, right? So I'm going to focus there, right? That's my target. So I'm basically creating content, digital assets that I can put on my website that will get picked up by Google. I'm also looking at Pinterest. Okay. Now, Pinterest, again, is not going to be my primary, but why would I focus on Pinterest? Isn't Pinterest a social media platform? Kinda. But the difference with Pinterest is it's also something that will live on. People search for things on Google and find Pinterest results. Okay. If you go on Pinterest, you're going there to find ideas for your office because you're going to remodel it, or you're going to find backyard games, or you're going to look for DIY, shed, ideas or whatever, right? that's a place that is holding evergreen assets. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our content on Google and we're going to use Pinterest to just bring a little bit more attention to it, right? It's not going to be my main source of traffic, which also, by the way, is something that whether it's Google, Pinterest, Facebook, doesn't matter. We're always still playing in their sandbox. So there's a chance that we could have a problem with Google. We could have a problem with Pinterest. We could have a problem with Facebook or any other channel. It's just the way it is. But once we add something into the mix here, and I'll share that here in a minute, once we get into the wheel, okay? So the wheel isn't necessarily the actual traffic piece, right? Although it is in a sense because we're creating the content. So let me just kind of back up. If you're listening to this, you're not watching this, imagine this. At the very top of the page, we have traffic. Down below that, we have 3 other blocks: Google, Pinterest, Facebook, with an arrow pointing to the very first piece of the wheel, okay? Now imagine this wheel, and the very first part, top of the wheel, is content, okay? So I create that piece of content. The second part of this wheel, okay, is email. Okay. Now, why is email the second thing? Because once I develop that piece of content, I have an email list that I can let know about the content. If I have products on that page, if I have, affiliate products, if I have my own products, or maybe there's just ads being served up. When I drive people from my email list to my content, there's a good chance that I can make some money, make some revenue, right? So content, it enters into the wheel, right? And then from there we go email. Okay. And again, email is something I control. So if I am putting content on Google, on Pinterest, on Facebook, I'm always having a lead capture, a lead magnet on my website somewhere, right? To try to capture the email address, because if something happens to Google, I still have my email list. If something happens to Pinterest, still have my email list. Something happens to Facebook, still have my email list, right? That's why that's so important. So number one part of the wheel, top of the wheel, is content. The second part of the wheel, which is about halfway down on the right-hand side, is email, okay? The third part of the wheel is products, okay? Now, these products can be yours. They can be other people's. Doesn't matter. It could be ads that are being served up. They're products for people to buy, right? Those are important because, let's face it, we want traffic. We also want revenue. We want to bring in some revenue. I mean, having an email list is great. Having, content is great, but we want to bring in some revenue in the business. We need to keep the lights on, right? So once we have the content, we build that content a lot of times focused on products or serving a market that would lead to a product, right? So the content serves as that goodwill piece, as Octavio was saying here earlier, right? It's that goodwill piece. It's information. And again, it resides on Google. It resides on Pinterest. It resides on Facebook. That could be found later, okay? And more so than any of those is Google, right? Pinterest is great, but Google is the main one that's going to be found later. Email, I can always send to that piece of content. Products. Now, here's the cool thing with products. Let's say I have my products. I built my content. Forget about the content for a second. What if I just want to do a 4-day flash sale for one of those products, right? Maybe it's a digital product. Maybe it's a physical product. Doesn't matter, right? I can then take my email list and I can say, hey, this Friday, we're going to be doing a flash sale. You should go check it out. Here it is. Ends on Sunday, right? And then we do we call it a little 3-day profit push. It's basically a little campaign that we run, right? So now that I have products, now that I have an email list, I can do that, right? So that's really, really important. Now, the last part of this little wheel, which makes it really awesome, is when people get results. So if people get results using one of your products, now that could be they bought your fishing lure and they caught the biggest bass they've ever caught, right? Now, it's your job to get that, okay? Get that from people as a testimonial or just as someone just sending you an email thanking you, right? Because that there will also drive, okay? It will drive more attention, more traffic. Because here's the cool thing. That person that got results is now a fan of your brand. So let's say you develop a piece of content, right? That content could be about how Joe got results using one of your things, or maybe 5 tips that Joe helped you discover, right? So then that brings it back into the content piece. So again, imagine the wheel. Okay, if you're not watching this, I'll describe it. You see this circle, and there's arrows just connecting all the way around the wheel. So at the very start, it's content, goes into email, goes into products, goes into results, goes back into content. We just keep feeding that circle. That's it. And that to me is the brand success wheel, really. It's the brand wheel of awesomeness, as I called it, but really it's the brand success wheel. If we focus on these areas, okay, to me, it's the long-term play and the short-term game, okay, and the win. Because again, going back to the product piece, if we focus on producing a small $10, $20 little digital product, we've got that thing. We can start testing and selling immediately. If we have an email list, we can let them know about it. We can also have that email list help us build it, right? And again, guys, this is what we're covering inside of Brand Accelerator Live, the one-day event. So if you have not grabbed a ticket yet, I would encourage you to do so. This isn't just a 1-hour webinar where then you're going to be sold into something. This is the full day workshop. Like, there's no selling into anything from these. It's basically, I'm selling you on the idea that this is probably what you should focus on. And if you've been overwhelmed with, all of these ideas, but all of these courses you might have sitting on your shelf or whatever, right? If I can get your attention and sit with me for a full day and we go over all of these different things, you're going to be able to, at the very end, which I'm going to have a session at the end where I'm going to tie it all together for you. And then you're going to create your own roadmap from where you're at, right? And then you can go to work doing it, right? And then focus on those rocks, those big rocks, right? These different parts that move the needle, right? And not worry about Instagram, not worry about Periscope, not worry about any of those TikTok, any of the ones that are Snapchat, any of the ones that you've heard about that you're like, oh man, I got to get on that platform because they're saying it's a great opportunity. There's not a lot of people there yet, but there's going to be. And no, I don't want to do that. My time is worth more than that. And yours is too, right? So wouldn't it feel better to just think to yourself, wow, I only have to focus on this. I don't have to focus on learning this massive, complex SEO strategy, or I don't have to learn this complicated, 6-week funnel building training, right? Like, I don't want to do that myself, right? I want to focus on this. And I have just found that if we focus on the areas that are most likely going to work, why not work on them more? And then once you do this, here's a little caveat here. If you start doing this, you're going to probably start seeing results. And then when you see results, you can start to hone in on that area even more, right? So if you're starting to do this and you're starting to do some content, then you're starting to build your list, and then you're sending it over to there on that content. And then you're starting to see that you're starting to sell some products, or you're starting to get some traffic. It's going to make you say, oh, you know what? I should probably do more of that, right? I should probably do more of that. And now there is a shortcut to all of this too, as far as traffic goes, because if you're building content for Google, it's going to take some time, right? You probably got to allow 3 to 6 months before you can even think you're going to start seeing any traffic, right? But if you build an email list, we can do it quicker because then we can send that traffic over to the content, right? The other thing we can do is we can use Facebook and start using Facebook ads. But again, I'm not telling you to go buy a 6-week training on how to master Facebook. What I'm telling you is I'm having Chris Schaefer come to Brand Accelerator Live for this one session. He's actually going to teach a couple of sessions, but this one in particular, he's going to break down a simplified version of what you can do, okay, to sell either your current physical products or the digital product if you have one, or if you're going to create one, because I'm going to show you how to create it also in that one session. And then once you have it created, then you're going to learn how to run basic, simple ads. Okay. And then from there, you can spend $5 a day, $10 a day and start testing things. and get results. Once we get results, then we can tweak, right? You guys have heard me say that all the time, right? If we put something into action, there's a good chance we're going to get some type of result. And when we get that result, guess what? We get to ask questions. Wonder why that's not working. Or I wonder why that's working and that's not working, right? So that's what I'm talking about here, guys. We do not want to get overwhelmed. I'm trying to strip it all away for you, right? Because I know right now you're being yelled at from a whole bunch of different people probably in this, in this world of building a business online. I know that because I am, right? I'm trying to be that voice and also the one to kind of highlight it to you and say, listen, I've been at this a long time. In 5 years, ask yourself, is Google going to still be here and are people going to be using it? I think we would all say, yes, I agree. That is definitely the case, right? So I probably want to be in that index, right? The second thing would be like, okay, there's, a lot of potential for traffic, but what would be another one? Maybe Pinterest would be the one that you would choose. That's the one that I would choose, right? So then maybe I'll use that one. And those are the only two organic type traffic channels that I'm going to focus on right now. Maybe that's what you're going to do, right? So then we would move on and say, okay, what's another traffic thing that I would want to focus on? Email list, right? So there's three. I got 3 traffic channels now, right? Google, I've got Pinterest, I've got email, okay? Then I go, okay, what's next? Products, offers, right? So what do I do here? Maybe I've already got 2 physical products. How do I build a digital product that might lead to the physical product? Which I actually just got off a call yesterday, like I was saying earlier, with a couple of our students inside the academy, and that's exactly where they're at. They have a physical product. They want to bring attention to it, but how do they do it? They're going to build a digital product that's going to lead to that thing. So instantly, they're going to actually take a free lead magnet, and then once they opt in for that, they enter their name and email address, they're going to get a special offer on the thank you page instantly, right? Then what we're going to do is once they're ready, because they have to build that first, the next step for them is to build a digital product that will actually be for sale, right? So that next move might be like, okay, let's switch out on the thank you page. Let's switch out and have it be a digital product for sale for $10. And then from there on that page, we might have an order bump, as we call it, which is super easy. And we might give a discount on our physical product. Okay. So that's what it's really, really simple if you think about it that way, right? So how do we create more offers in our brand? Well, you might say, I got to launch another physical product, but I don't have $5 or $7 grand right now to do that. And it's harder now to manufacture because of everything that's going on in the world. Why don't we start creating some digital products, right? Start thinking about what your market needs. What are they buying, right? What do they need help with? What's a small little solution that you could give them to make their life a little bit easier? And one big thing that a lot of people think, which I used to think this, but I don't anymore, is why would someone pay for it when they can just go search it for free? And I'll tell you why. Convenience. That's why. Convenience. Right now, I don't want to have to go find all of these different resources and do all of this stuff. I just want to download a guide that it's all there for me. And I'll pay $10, $20 for that because it's going to save me time, right? Time is valuable to us, right? And we're willing to pay for convenience. So never forget that, all right? Don't think just because something is free on the internet, you can't charge for it. You can. I've done it. I still do it, okay? So just keep that in mind. So products, big thing, right? And not just physical products, digital products. And let's build that out. And then from there, once we have some stuff in place, let's put a little system in place that we reach out through email, because now we have a buyer's list too, right? Once we have a buyer's list, that's a whole nother game. We go from a free email list to a buyer's list. Now with that buyer's list, guess what we need to do next? We need to reach out to those people. Hey, how's everything going, right? Is there any questions I can answer for you? And then you might say, hey, what's one thing that this product helped you achieve? And then they're going to tell you something. And then you're going to go, hey, great. Do you mind if I share that as a testimonial? Sure. And now you can put that in different areas that help sell your products, right? So that's the customer journey part, the support issue, right? And getting people a result. And that result could be just having better water, right? I mean, gosh, I just bought this complicated water system, right? I mean, I would have paid, a little bit more to have a detailed guide on what I needed to. I mean, they didn't give great instructions, right? But I paid additional for it. Why did I pay for it? Because I want better water. I wanted to know the ins and outs of water, right? Now they have a recurring model because they're going to sell me filters. And I necessarily wouldn't get into that market because you're kind of limited on the content, but you probably could, right? So the results though, they would need to follow up with me and go, hey, since you've been drinking your water, how do you feel? How does it taste? And then that would be a testimonial. They share that. And the more I get of those, guess what? That's convincing. It's the reviews in a sense that's on Amazon, but you can collect them yourself. So that's the results portion. And then we just keep feeding the wheel and just keep letting it, it's a flywheel really is what it is. Because once that thing gets rolling, there's no stopping. All right. So there you have it. There is the brand wheel of awesomeness. This is really what I am going to be focusing on, what I have been focusing on. I am not going to be tempted by the latest trend, the latest TikTok, the latest Snapchat, whatever. And if you listen to the full episode, if you didn't skip through, then you already understand what I'm talking about. You understand my methodology and kind of what I am saying, like we should be focusing on, because these things are not just going to be here and relevant today. They will be here for a very long time. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to waste my time trying to just capitalize on a trend that could be here for a year or maybe even less. I want to build assets. I want to build things in the business that drive the business. And that goes with traffic. That goes with profits, right? And those profits are done by using or creating more offers or different methods to create offers. And one of those ways is a digital product, which I talked about. Also ads on your site if you want to go down that route, or affiliate offers. Any of that stuff really comes down to those offers. But again, if you listen to the full episode, then you understand what I'm saying right now. But if you just focus on those areas, I'm telling you, it's going to make you feel lighter. It's going to make you feel like you can breathe and you're not trying to keep feeding the hamster wheel of Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever new one is coming out. And I think it's going to make you just feel a lot better, and also know that you're focusing on the things that really matter and things that will benefit you now, but also much later. All right. So guys, the show notes can be found at brandcreators.com/881. And if you wanted to grab the recordings from Brand Accelerator Live 2020, our virtual workshop day, you can head on over to baltickets.com, and you'll either find the recordings there, or if they're not ready yet, then you will be able to sign up for when they are ready on that page. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up. As always, remember, I'm here for you, I believe in you, and I am rooting for you. But you have to, come on, say it with me, say it loud, say it proud, take action. Have an awesome, amazing day, and I'll see you right back here on the next episode. Now let's rock your brand.